Welcome to the Johns Hopkins HEAT Corps monthly Town Hall. We will begin our Town Hall with our dynamic panelists soon. Paul Sion is the acting bureau head for the City of Baltimore, Department of Public Works, Bureau of Water and Wastewater. Paul has 30 years of experience in the water and wastewater industry, having worked in the manufacturing, design, and utility management sectors for various utility owners throughout the country. Paul received his Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering from California State University at Long Beach and his Master's of Science in Environmental Engineering from Johns Hopkins University. Paul is a professional engineer registered in California and Maryland. Justin Hall is a licensed professional engineer in the state of Maryland and has 16 years of experience in civil engineering. He is currently the Chief of Design for Baltimore County and manages 6 engineering design divisions including sewer, water, storm drain, green infrastructure, highways, and structures. Prior to working for Baltimore County, Mr. Hall worked for J&T and RK&K, primarily doing sewer and water design. Marguerite Woods is a resident of Baltimore. Her love for Baltimore City has led her to be an advocate and community activist. She is a member and leader with the National Federation of the Blind of Maryland and a partner with the BDS Healthy Aging Networks Incorporated. A core value of the organization is that older adults are assets, not burdens. Woods actively participates in the efforts of the NFB MD to achieve equality, opportunity, and security for the blind. Dr. Natalie Exel is a water scientist at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health in the Department of Environmental Health and Engineering. Her work focuses on linking health with water and sanitation infrastructure. She is currently working on community-engaged approaches to understand how drinking water exposures in Baltimore City are affecting the health of residents. Santos is an assistant professor at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine in the Division of Pulmonary Critical Care Medicine. He is co-chair of the Johns Hopkins Health Equity Steering Committee and is the co-director and co-founder of Medicine for the Greater Good, a novel medical initiative impacting 10,000 Baltimore City lives regarding health and wellness while at the same time creating physician citizens. His clinical responsibilities center on critical care services in adult populations, Director of the Tobacco Treatment Clinic at Johns Hopkins Medicine, Associate Director of the Hereditary Hemorrhagic Telangiectasia Center of Clinical Excellence, and physician in the Obstructive Lung Disease Group at Johns Hopkins Medicine and in the post-COVID-19 acute clinic. And now welcome the moderator for tonight's Town Hall, Panagis Santos.
Excellent. I believe that is my cue. Thank you all so much for being here. For those who are joining us from Baltimore City, for those who are joining us in Baltimore County, for those of us who are joining wherever you may be, I'm hoping the next hour not only puts to focus kind of a call to action now around our water, but also just overall a massive interest in public health. It's hard to not be ignorant of health since we've all been experiencing this pandemic, but health impacts us more and beyond just infections. And I'm hoping with today, with these experts and our community members, you'll understand that kind of holistic approach towards health in every aspect of life. So excited to have you all here. And I'm hoping by the end as well, you understand how medicine and health and the public health world aims to maintain itself as a public trust. So great to be here and amongst people that I've grown to call colleagues and grown to call friends. So I'm hoping you all feel that same energy during our time together. You heard our introductions and our bios. These are outstanding human beings here today with you all, from public health experts to scientists to one of the best community advocates I've ever met, Miss Marguerite Woods. You'll meet them all more intimately as we go through our questions, many of which have come in already from other sources. So we're going to go ahead and start. And at the end, we'll talk about a call to action for you all. So without further ado, let's dive in. Again, I'm Panagis. I'm the MC for tonight. Also go by Dr. G, born and raised here in Baltimore City, over in the Highlandtown area. So if anyone's here representing Highlandtown as well, glad to have you. So if you do have your questions, you're welcome to type your questions in the chat on Facebook or on YouTube. Our HEAT team, our Johns Hopkins Health and Education team, is on the lookout for those questions, and they'll be sending to me live in real time, and we'll get to them. And if we don't, you're welcome to contact us and send them to us, and we'll make sure the appropriate experts respond back. So without further ado, let me actually bring up Dr. Natalie Exum. You heard her introductions. Dr. Exum, I will tell you all, is the whole reason why we are here today. That's it. So this person, who I've never met a scientist advocate so much for the public well-being, she is here to start tackling some of our questions. So Dr. Exum, to you first. Can you talk about your own career, and hopefully you're inspiring the next generation while you're doing this, as a water scientist, a water engineer, and why caring about the water you drink, the safety of it, needs not only to be an individual effort, but a collective one overall?
Yeah, welcome everybody. So happy that we're here at this town hall tonight. Well, to inspire the next generation, I have to share that it was actually in high school when I went to a Women in Engineering fair and realized that I can be applying my knowledge and love for math and science and apply them to real world problems, and that was a career that I could have. And so did my engineering degrees in environmental engineering, because I also cared a lot about the environment. And then when I was working and going to low income countries and seeing how much people were really suffering and from infectious diseases and waterborne diseases and diarrhea, when they didn't have this infrastructure, it made me realize, wow, we're so fortunate back here in the United States that we have utilities and advanced infrastructure that allows us to turn on our faucets and take a clean sip of water and know that it's going to not get me sick, right? I have to admit, when I brushed my teeth this morning, I did not think my drinking water was going to get me sick, but that's not true around the world. So all that to say, after realizing my passion for health as well, and getting a PhD in public health, and now working in the environmental health and engineering department at the School of Public Health at Johns Hopkins, it makes me realize that these two things are really linked together, and that it's not, our motto at the School of Public Health is saving lives millions at a time. And actually those water operators, maybe not millions at a time every day, but over the span of years and years, people have remained healthy in our country and specifically in Baltimore because of the work that these people and this infrastructure do every day. So, this is, by its nature, the whole system is a collective, and we have to be caring about our neighbors by caring about our pipes. So hopefully that gets us started on the right path today.
I think so. And I love that, caring for our neighbors by caring for our pipes. If someone is going to put that on a t-shirt, every public health scientist will be wearing it. Such as now I'm going to pivot to our two professional engineers, Mr. Paul Salian and Mr. Justin Hall. And to the audience out there, what I find enjoyable is, for the public health world, people like have this fandom over great experts, and the fact that we have two here today that are with the state of Maryland and in our Baltimore County and Baltimore City, the honor is ours, but we're hoping the audience recognizes that too and feels it. So first, let me start off with you, Mr. Paul Salian. If I can ask you a question, good sir. And then, of course, Justin, after that, the same question to Mr. Salian. If you want to also take an approach to it as well, you're welcome to. But can you describe, Paul, describe to the audience more about the DPW Water Service Line Initiative, what it is, and how people can get started with the process in their own homes, such as outlining the steps to check their service lines for the time being?
Well, first, thank you to the Hopkins HEAT Corps for providing this opportunity to talk with the community. We understand that while the water is safe, we maintain that water chemistry to avoid any kind of corrosion within metal pipe. There's still that doubt in people's minds, questions that people have, and there's just one of several opportunities that we're hoping to put forward in the future so that we can take this journey together to understand and educate people on the water quality that is currently being served in the community and how everyone can help. So with that said, just one other thing is when you say Mr. Salian, I look over my shoulder for my father. So I'm just Paul. With that, the service line partnership. So this is really a partnership with the county, the city and the county. So we have one water system that serves both Baltimore City, Baltimore County. While there's separate utilities, separate municipalities, we still consider it a partnership, a collaboration. And so for that reason, that's where we came up with the service line partnership. We may have some divergence on how we go about doing things in the future, but for now, it's really about collaborating and making sure that all of our customers are able to understand what's happening and steps moving forward. So that's why we do the partnership. It's one distribution system. We see each other as partners, as collaborators. So we decided, why not take this journey together? So that said, as far as what can be done for everyone, it's really about doing the self-survey. So I will speak for the city, at least. We made the intentional decision not to be as least intrusive as possible on people's property. So there's different ways that we can identify pipe materials going into your homes or into whatever building. Some of that may be excavating a test pit. So maybe like a 3x3 pit, or it could be a round hole that's maybe 3, 4, 5 inches in diameter. But we really did not want to do that on the sidewalks or near the meters that serve each and every building. So that's why we came up with this self-survey, hoping that the residents, the customers that we serve, would take the initiative to identify what their pipe material is. It seems to be, from our perspective, just sort of a logical step. Is most people would want to know if I have lead pipe or if I have some other material, and so that's why we started this self-survey. It's only a 3 to 5 minute survey. There's a survey that's done online. So you go onto the website, you type in your address, you're able to see a map. If your property has a blue dot, that means we don't know what the pipe material is on your property. And we ask that you do the self-survey. Again, it's 3 to 5 minute questions. And then at the end of it, we need 2 pictures to be taken of the service line coming into the house. And once that information is saved, it's sent to our database, the city database, and we just compile that with all of our other information, and that's how we build our inventory for the entire system.
I appreciate it. And Paul, first of all, thank you for Paul. I will blame Calvert Hall and 4 years of the Salian School of Catholic Education up there in Towson when making me call everyone Mr. I have 18-year-old patients, and I'm like, Mr. They're like, you're older than me. Paul, one last question before I pivot to Justin. So Baltimore City, my parents were the same way when they were immigrants. A lot of them rent. for those who rent and get this, what accountability, like what would you tell them, like how to pursue this working with their landlords?
Yeah, so we've had some discussion with our internal general counsel about it. From a legal standpoint, we recommend that you contact your property manager, have them be the ones to do this self-survey. It is in their interest. It's a federal requirement for all water systems throughout the country to do to come up with an inventory of all the pipe in the system. So it's a federal requirement. We're asking only for 3 to 5 minutes of someone's time, ideally the property manager, but we would recommend reaching out to your property manager to have that survey done.
Appreciate it, Paul. And we'll make sure we continue voicing that throughout, every community outreach that we have, because it's going to be important, because, we want to make sure the appropriate parties feel the accountability, but the accountability in a sense of just keeping people safe. So I really appreciate it, Paul. Justin, unless you want me to call you Mr. Hall, it is up to you.
No, Justin's fine.
same conversation over to you, my friend. And by all means, you can add to what Paul said, or really try to make it a little bit more Baltimore County centric.
Yeah, no, well, first off, again, thank you. Like Paul said, appreciate having us on here tonight and the opportunity to speak to the public about our program here. I'm going to get a little ambitious with my technology here and try to share a screen with everyone, because like Paul mentioned, he did a great job of explaining everything. I don't want to rehash things, but one thing he mentioned was the website, and we're really excited about this website we've put together for the program. And I am going to try to share. I actually put the link in the chat here, so I don't know if everyone online can see that link.
We will make sure, Justin, the link will be broadcasted out. And Justin, I run intensive care units for a living. Sharing my screen and putting up a website causes me more anxiety than that.
Well, and I just got an error message. It says it won't let me share. So
understood. Our HEAT team, can anyone assist in sharing the screen?
Let me do it now, Justin. Yep.
Okay.
Perfect. As we're tackling that, though, Justin, is there anything you want to share until the screen comes up? Like, for instance, same concept about what should the attendants renters expect, and others, and so forth.
Multitasking here.
Multitasking. No worries, good sir. Sorry about that. But I see a screen. Yes.
Do you see my screen? Okay.
Yes. Well done.
You were asking a lot of me trying to answer, share, but
no worries.
So
take over, good sir.
Cool. So all right, this is a website we put together for our program, and it's like Paul said, it's a joint program between Baltimore City and Baltimore County, because it's a one system that the city provides the water for, and we provide distribution in the county. But you can see here, there's a lot of great things on this website, and one of the key things which residents can help us out with is taking this self-reporting survey. And Paul kind of went through some highlights of the survey, but you click this button. I'm not going to click it tonight because I don't want to kind of get too far off the main screen, but you click this button here, take the self-reporting survey button, and it'll start guiding you through the steps. We have some other great features on this website, like a video. You can click the video. It'll show you how to walk through and identify the material of your service line. I know it can be challenging if you're trying to do it on your phone and then also do the survey at the same time. Sometimes it maybe helps if you have a second phone or a computer you can play it on and kind of watch as you're doing the survey, and you can kind of step by step go through that process. But it's a good video, and we have a English version and a Spanish version, so multiple versions there. Then we have some good stuff up here at the top, some frequently asked questions. So if there's something you're wondering, I'll click there just to show you, but we kind of go through a lot of stuff. Some stuff we might even cover tonight on questions we've thought that might come up on this partnership and the lead in drinking water, and where all this comes from. I do think the one thing that is important to note, this is not something unique to Baltimore. The lead and copper rule revisions were released by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, in 2021, and they apply to the entire country. And we're going through this just like other municipalities are throughout the country. And so,
Justin, I'm only interrupting you because that's so important to recognize. I know in Baltimore we always feel everything's just about us, which it is, and it should be. We're a great city, but you're right. Every other city is tackling this same conversation. The only difference is they don't have you two, and they don't have the HEAT Corps. So, just wanted to point that out.
We're going to try to make it easier and simpler than anyone else, but we'll see what we could do there. And but yeah, so it's all over. Everyone's doing this, and so we're not alone. And so here's the questions. I think we got some resources, downloads you can get, and then contact information. So there's a lot of good stuff on this website. And if I could give anyone any advice, it'd be go to the website, and there's a lot of good ways to get answers. Do the survey, figure out information you need, and yeah.
Appreciate you, Justin.
Well, thank you.
And I'm going to go back to Paul for a quick question before I go over to Ms. Marguerite Woods in a second. But Paul, so question came in as we're juggling this. Is the same service line process in Baltimore County than it is for this Baltimore City?
It's exactly the same.
All right, perfect. All right, with that in mind, and Justin, you not only shared your screen, you actually stopped sharing it, so you get extra credit points for all of that, good sir. Now over to Marguerite, my friend, and so let me actually give everyone here a background, right? So the HEAT Corps team, myself, many of us do a lot of community engagement. We feel it's the appropriate way to really promote health outside of the confines of the hospital and clinical walls. And so when the DPW of the city began to make these announcements, Dr. Exum stepped up, as she always does. Her heart's always in the right place. And it's like, hey, Dr. G, can I go and talk to your community? And we're like, sure. And then it was through other networks that Marguerite Woods, on these conversations, said, listen, I'm a Baltimore City resident, and I'm blind. I don't know, how do we have these conversations? So Marguerite, over to you, my friend, because you have the heart of the city right now, in addition to the heart of another group that, they're going to, as much as we're the DPW, like Justin, that website is fantastic. You recognize, hey, it's going to work for a lot, but there's also going to be others who it's not going to work for.
Yes.
So, Marguerite,
absolutely.
First question to you. The first time you heard us talking about this, what was your reaction?
My reaction was, first of all, thank you so much for having me here tonight. I really appreciate it. And I'm really excited to share how important it is to think about the low vision and the blind community, as well as older adults. But my first reaction was, how am I going to be able to do this as a blind person? And Dr. G said, well, is that your nice way of asking us to come over and help you get this done? And I was like, absolutely. And they actually came to my home, and they got to see and understand a little bit about what it's like to live in my world. And as an advocate for that community, for my community, it's really important to understand that, first of all, many of us, because of the fact that over 70% of blind individuals are unemployed. So having a smartphone or a computer, most people have those things, but a lot of blind people don't. And many of them have them and don't know how to use them much further than making and receiving phone calls. Now, I'm not saying that's all of us, but there are quite a few. And that's very important. And then you've got to locate these pipes. You've got to do the process. First of all, you've got to be able to read the materials and do what they're asking you to do. And is it accessible for low vision and blind? Is it in large print? Is it Braille? Is it audio? And once you get past those barriers, then you've got to do the test, and then you've got to be able to discern what color you're going to find. And you may not be able to do that for a plethora of reasons. There are apps out there that can help you with that. But again, not everybody in the low vision and blind community has access to all those things. Or if they have access, they're not prepared to use them because many of us have not grown up using digital kinds of things. And so it's very important. But once you get through all of that, and maybe you get some help from some sighted friends or family or neighbors or whatever, if you're lucky enough to be able to do that, or trusting enough, because you got to remember, there's a lot of people out there who are totally afraid to let people in their homes that they don't know. I mean, every time you turn on the television or you're talking to people, there's always something about scams. We just had the U.S. Attorney's office come to a meeting over the weekend and talk to us about scams that are directed at older adults. And so, this is something that people are, very hesitant about. So all those things have to be taken into consideration. I'm not saying that I know the answers to how to resolve them, but I certainly know that bringing us to the table to sit down and talk about how to get it done so that we can successfully contribute to that process of letting everybody know what kind of pipes are in our homes, because we want to be a part of the process. We just need the tools and the skills to be able to do it. And, I'm hoping that being able to speak in this forum is helping people to understand that while this is a great project, there's a great number of us that will need something a little bit different to get it done. And coming out, being a part of what we're going through so that you can better see how to help us take care of the situation in a way that we can actually help give you the information that you need. So I hope that that's helpful.
Marguerite, it was more than helpful. And that's the other part, like
Yeah.
the challenge with many efforts that we do, you're right. I mean, like Justin and Paul, I mean, the website is fantastic. At the same time,
Yeah.
recognizing it doesn't reach all the populations.
Right.
And the challenge, in addition to that challenge, and unless someone can speak up, we may not know. And so, Marguerite, having you here is not, we're not bringing you here to have the answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are here to hear these concerns and begin the ball rolling on our end to try to come up with ways of creating solutions. And that's why you're seeing both the DPW of the city and county here with the HEAT Corps. I mean, we're all in this together, right? We're all part of Baltimore in one way, shape, or form, city and county together. So, Marguerite, your testimony, my friend, amazing.
Well, there's something else that I'd like to contribute.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you have a time frame that you want to get these things done. If I get physical mail, that means I have to employ a lot of times someone to be a reader. I'm sure you can get friends and family to do it sometimes, but you can't totally depend on that. And so a lot of times you don't get to read your mail in a timely fashion. And again, once you get it read, then the process of actually getting it done. I heard you say something about a video on the website, which is awesome. Do you know about audio describing? You said that it would, it'll probably show you what you need to do. But if I'm blind listening to a video, if it's not describing every step, then I have no clue what's going on that video. And so there is a technique out there called audio description. And I don't know if you know this, but if you go to a movie theater, I can get headsets and it'll audio describe the visual parts of the movie to me so that I can enjoy it without asking my friends and neighbors in the movies what's going on. And so those kinds of technologies aren't always well known, but they're very important to my community.
I appreciate it, Marguerite. And remember, Baltimore is home to the National Federation of the Blind, right?
Absolutely. Our national headquarters is here in Baltimore.
Let's take some pride. And look,
yeah.
Marguerite, we recognize, especially as a physician, I can't walk in the shoes of my patients. However, we can advocate for you and we can walk next to you, right?
Yes.
And that, listening to you today, it's not just centered on those with visibility issues, but I imagine other communities may begin to rise and touch base with DPW or touch base with us and saying, look, we will also need resources. That's fantastic. That's why we're doing this together.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
thank you, Marguerite. Thank you so
You're
much.
very, very welcome. And please remember older adults as well. I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
technology is not something that many of us have grown up with. Because I am blind and I've had exposure and a need to get to understand technology. You know, I've gone through the process, but many of us have not been able to do it as well. And so it's important to remember that we're out here and we want support in being able to give back.
Perfect, Marguerite. So,
Yeah.
and we'll touch base on that near the end, but I love that, you know,
Okay.
taking into account everything. Marguerite, you're just amazing. Thank you, my friend. We'll be
Well,
right back
thank
to
you.
you. I always
Sure.
appreciate you.
Mm.
So listen, you know, Dr. Exum, listening to what Marguerite said, right? Listening to, I mean, from not just the words, but her tone that clearly is intended not only to impact her, but her community, you know, as she is, you know, rooted in Baltimore in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
You brought up earlier that high school girl that wanted to become a public health scientist. So listening to Marguerite, going back to you, how important, like, do you feel like we take for granted sometimes these services that, you know, you brushed your teeth this morning? Do we take for granted? And, you know, what can we do more as a community to you know, enjoy these, the water, enjoy these services, but at the same time, make sure we never lose the established criteria that we all demand of ourselves for healthy and clean water?
Yeah, so right now, we know what is the question that we can do right now is I think what I'm hearing, and especially for the younger adults, you know, even the teenagers on listening to this right now, you know, who are the digital natives, who are the ones who understand how to use their phones better than anyone, you know, does. Well, you can use that for a lot of good right now, and helping out your aunts and your uncles and your grandmas and anyone else who you know that may not be as fast as you and need you to really help them when they're having a connectivity issue or whatever it is, right? You have so much power in your hands right now because the task at hand, what is being asked of Baltimore residents really has a huge impact on the health of your family members, of your friends, because what that material is made of is important. And we are living with a legacy potentially of pipes that were laid a long, long time ago. And we pride ourselves on being an old city with an amazing history. And underneath our streets may still be legacy pipes that we as a nation, this is not Baltimore specific, we as a nation need to replace. There are Environmental Protection Agency estimates that across the country, there are 9.2 million pipes that still needs to be replaced. And so how can you, what can you do? Well, there's a very specific task at hand that you can take into your own hands and go onto that website that Justin just showed and take that survey and find your house and click on that blue dot. And even if it's not your house, and if it's someone that you know that isn't as good with technology, you can do that for them. And this is one of the most important public health actions you can take to protect the drinking water that's coming into your home.
You know, I always think I'm biased as a lung doctor, always putting the lungs first, even during Heart Month. But I love the engineers and water scientists here. I love it. You guys, this is great. Like, I'm like, I should have, where was that high school Ponegis? Should have been motivated to do this. Thank you, Dr. Exum. And you're right. I mean, look, this, you know, what Paul and Justin have made it the emphasis earlier. We're trying to balance this public health request in a manner that isn't intrusive and disruptive of people's lives. At the same time, we want to make sure, hey, we can be as healthy as we can. So there's going to be a lot of reliance on those self-survey data. But as Marguerite made a mention, many of us can't do that self-survey. We're going to have to rely on others. And to me, this is what makes Baltimore oftentimes the greatest is, hey, we come together. You know, we've done it before for other concerns, other matters, and good and bad times. And I'm hoping we can do the same during these efforts, especially with the digital literacy that our youth know so much better. They're hipper than us. They can get those pictures uploaded much faster than we can. So the audience out there, if you could have seen Dr. Exum and I, if there's a joke of how many doctors does it take to upload pictures, it's definitely not 2. We needed more, but I'll spare that. Paul, over to you for, next. So a resident self-identifies, right? They went to the websites, they followed the guidelines, they tracked down their pipes, they did the self-testing, and they feel like, ooh, I think this is lead. They've uploaded the pictures. Can you take a moment just to walk through? Because I imagine people will leave here tonight motivated. And how can we help that motivation not result in anxiety depending on the findings?
Yeah. So for any self-survey that's completed, once it's uploaded and sent over to us, it goes through a QC process, and that can take anywhere from a week to 2 weeks to review not only the answers to the questions, but then the pictures, and just confirm, yes, it's copper or it's lead or whatever the pipe material is. So we're now working on an automated message. So when you upload your data and we go through the QC process, an automated message would come out saying it's confirmed that you have copper or lead or whatever the case may be. So that work is continuing. In the meantime, what we plan on doing is just collecting all of the surveys that have been reviewed to this point and confirmed, and then maybe just a manual or mass email saying that, just notifying the customers that the survey has been reviewed and the pipe material confirmed. So that's at least the informational steps to make sure that people are familiar or notified that your information has actually been used. I think that most people would be quite frustrated, I'm sure they are to this point, having done the self-survey and not getting any kind of a message back. We're going through the QC process, but that will be rolling out over the next few weeks. We're doing testing now on that automated process. And then as far as the lead pipe, if there is a lead pipe that's been confirmed. So what we tell all of the customers, one is don't panic. As I mentioned at the top, the city maintains the water quality, so the water chemistry, so that it isn't corrosive to any metal pipe, including lead. And then as far as our replacement goes, that's where right now we need to quantify how much lead pipe, if any, is in the system. And then we're able to develop, well, what is our plan for replacing that pipe? So we first need to get through this one step of quantifying how much lead pipe there is, again, if any, in the system, and then we'll roll out on developing a replacement plan.
Oh, and I appreciate it, Paul. And I love the transparency as well that you're providing, saying it's going to take these days in order to make sure it's verified and done so appropriately. It's the same conversation I have with my patients. After I do a lung biopsy, and they're like, "Why does it take 7 to 14 days?" I'm like, because we're putting it through the ringer, right? There's a lot that is going to be reliant on our next steps depending on how it comes back. And I imagine you want the accurate response that may take some time, whereas it's just a response done in haste that creates more confusion than clarity. So we recognize that. And, even just what you just said, like, hey, we're making sure there's an automated message, just having some feedback back to the
right.
people, recognizing it's been received. That I love that as you guys kind of dive into this to make sure people feel that they're heard and await the appropriate response. So I appreciate it, Paul.
If I could just add on, so for the city and the county, we're in the fortunate or unfortunate, depending on how you look at it, position of we're sort of leading the state. There are no other municipalities that are as far along as we are. So we are learning as we go. We talk to other municipalities in other states, learn from them that are further along. I think we understand that we may have our trip ups. We learn from it. We move on. But the whole intent is to learn, don't make the same mistake, and then have that transparency to the 2 million people that we serve.
And it's not like you're grabbing a textbook from your years in college and grad school being like, okay, how did this city do it? every city since 2021 has dived into this. For our audience, we always try to make sure, like, it may seem Baltimore centric, it may seem we're the only place in this world, but every other state is tackling this. So I appreciate it, Paul. Justin, good sir, over to you. Same question. If you want me to repeat it, I'm happy to. If you feel like, nah, remember, let me tackle it. Over to you.
All right. Well, I'll say the one thing that the beauty of this program we've set up, Paul and I and our the individuals working with us, we're talking weekly, and like Paul's response is great. Like that is what is happening with both the county and the city, and we meet with a consultant that's helping us, and we're kind of on the same page with the QC and the stuff. It's all working together here with this service line, and that's why we call it a partnership, because it is the city and the county working together to get this completed for all of our residents. And we've set up where we are kind of personalizing our help. Like, so if there's a county resident that needs help, and it does go through the city's 311 call center, but we do kind of send calls that are more specific to the county, to individuals here at Baltimore County that can support them, and the city has support on their side to help residents. But it is a partnership, and I feel like it's been a great experience for me working with Paul and his team, and my team here at the county, that we've been able to work together and stay on the same page with stuff like this, and it just makes for a nice uniform message. So what Paul said is what I would say too.
No, this is great. I'm going to ask both of you one additional question that came in to kind of go off of Paul, a comment you said, and you correct me if I'm wrong before I ask this question. We suspect we've done a great job of probably a low amount, if almost none, lead pipes. But this self-survey, it's intended, just like because of the new standard the EPA put out, it's a trust but verify kind of situation. With that in mind, it's hard to kind of presumably know how to respond to this until we know the gravity of the situation. So for many, though, individuals, you recognize that. I think the community, there's like, okay, fine. We may not know how to tackle it until we know how much of it to tackle. But are you or Justin in a position to say, okay, for that individual homeowner, recognizing like they're the one person, they found it, is changing the lead piping the responsibility? Will it fall solely on the homeowner? Will there be any cost assistance? I think that's what they want to know, how much of it will impact them financially and timely to react to it. If you can answer that, or is it one of these, we have to see the gravity of it, but I think just people want to know what to expect, even if it's a 30,000-foot view.
Yeah, so I'll just say it is about how much lead pipe, again, if any, is in our system. So maybe I didn't explain it at the beginning, but the whole reason why it's called a service line partnership, over the generations, we've been replacing lead pipe on the public side, and so we have very little, if any, lead pipe on the public side of the water. So that's from the treatment plant all the way to the meter that serves a house or a building. What we don't know is from that meter to the base of the house or building. That's called a service line, and that's why we call it a service line partnership. That's our focus, is on the private side on the service line. So that said, I think everyone can understand if there are let's say 100 properties with lead pipe, that's not too much of a cost. If it's 100,000 or 200,000, then that's where we need to start balancing. Well, what kind of assistance, if any, can be provided? How much will this total come up to? And understand that ultimately someone has to pay for that. And yes, there's federal funding for that. Those come in the shape of loans. So those loans have to be paid back over 20, 30 years. Or is it rate increases, or is it a combination of? So that's why we're very hesitant to say what is possible. I will say, just in general, regardless of if the municipality is going to replace any lead pipe, it's still private property. So ultimately, it's still going to come down to the property owner allowing the work to be done on their property, whether they do it themselves and pay for it, or whether it's a city county doing that on their behalf. So it's not as easy as us saying there's lead pipe, we're going to go replace it. It will not be that.
I did want to add something with that last part, Paul. I think it's important for homeowners to understand that part, that from the meter to their house, if they find they have lead, they can at any time go and replace that on their end. They don't have to wait for the county or the city. So if they feel like they want to get it done, they want to do this, they can do that. It doesn't have to be our directive to them to do it or our plan, but we would still, if they didn't do it, we would be planning that and how that was going to happen and working with them at a later date. But
no, and that's great to know. And then Justin, Paul, and Dr. Exum, if you want to weigh in on this too. So, you might have homeowners like Marguerite and others who've been at that home decades.
mm-hmm.
You may have other homeowners who are like, I just bought a house. Does home inspections, do they look at, like, I bought a home in the city, we had a home inspection. Is that part of the standard of them looking for lead water pipes? Or and if you don't know, you don't know. Just, it was one of the questions thrown at me, and someone's like, did my home inspector look for this? Is that something you can comment on?
Yes, that depends on each municipality. Even so, the city may have a plumbing code or something in the charter saying that's required, but the county may not. So it's really there is no state or federal regulation about that. I won't say for sure. I don't believe that's a requirement within the city. And Justin can maybe speak to the county. I will say that is one of the issues that we need to identify and tackle as we get into this replacement program, whatever it turns out to be. And it's actually one of the directives from the federal government is you need to identify what are the challenges for the city and county to replace pipe on private property, whether it's finances or things like changes in plumbing codes or charters. So that is going to be part of our investigation as we move forward.
No,
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Justin. Sorry.
I was going to say it's interesting you brought that up because we've been actually working at the county with some of our, I guess, like other agencies outside of DPWT to say, okay, you're in people's houses already. What can we do to maybe look at like identifying these service lines coming in and have you help us? Like, can we alter inspection forms? Can we, add just a little checkbox here that, we can assist? Because you're already in that house, you're already doing something, whether it be, some sort of lead, health thing, or and we're already kind of looking forward and trying to figure out ways to make this easier for residents that maybe wouldn't be able to do the surveys on their own.
Oh, I appreciate it. And from my standpoint, this is why we wanted to have these kind of community engagement conversations, right? Our community has, diverse populations. Marguerite is a testimony to that, and diverse, not only questions, but also potentially solutions. So the housing inspecting one, it was a leading question because they're like, we can start performing them. So love this. And thank you, Justin and Paul. One more question around the outreach, and then I'm going to ask one collectively to Dr. Exum, Justin, and Paul. So this one is there the outreach plan that was developed? Paul, you hinted at this in the beginning, and I think that's really important to emphasize. Like, you want to be able to recognize the EPA. Every municipality has to do this, and so how do you balance we want to tell you about this, but we don't want to be intrusive and disrupt. This is self-testing. It is your home. It's a private entity. We can't just show up. When putting this together, is there any other factors that went into how the outreach plan went in?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned it before. It's a work in progress. So again, we intentionally at the beginning did not want to intrude on people's property and whether it's excavate a pit or drill a hole. That said, there are other technologies. They're brand new technologies that can help identify pipe material. So we're working on getting those contracts together and potentially using those technologies. The issue, they all have various challenges with using the technology, but the point being that we are looking at other techniques beyond just the self-survey. We understand that we're not going to get 100% participation, and as people like Marguerite and others who have, maybe they just have a concern with going into their basement, or they can't get to it, or it's in a cellar, whatever the reason, not everyone's going to be able to do it. So that's where in our public outreach, it's evolving. So now we've, like the county, we've started in the city to develop a program where we go door to door knocking. So we're hoping to roll that out at the end of March, not to everyone, but to a certain population or certain areas of the city. And then we have the postcards and the bill inserts that the county has already sent out. We're doing the same thing in the city. We have more advertisement that we're planning for, hopefully some more engagement with the HEAT Corps. So we're trying to find different avenues of public outreach. And again, it's evolving as we find more partners like the HEAT Corps, and hear from our constituents on what are some of the challenges, things that we had not planned for.
And Paul, for someone who didn't plan for a pandemic, I can sympathize, I can empathize with you, good sir, and Justin as well. Like, right, I mean, we have the messaging, we hear it. How do we best individualize it and make sure our community can react to it? It's only going to come through efforts like this, right? Come into these town halls, having the conversations, meeting people like Marguerite and others. You're right. I mean, there's not a one size fits all, and we're adapting in real time, but that's the reality of the situation because it deals with such sensitive conversations. So thank you, Paul. Justin, I interrupted.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, sir.
No, you're good. I was just going to add, like Paul was saying, that both the county and city are looking at getting individuals out in the field to help. So like Marguerite was saying, it can be a challenge for certain individuals, and we're going to send representatives from the county, like that work for the county. So if individuals are willing to allow them to help them, we want to come and help when there's a need and maybe when there's challenges or questions. So what I would suggest is don't be afraid to call and say, I need help. Like, this isn't easy for me because of this challenge I'm facing, and we're going to do our best to get out there and help those individuals. So don't just sit quiet. If you have a challenge, you have something that's a struggle for this, call us. We got the numbers on the website, the 311 for the city, and like I said, if it's in the county and it is a need that's related for the county, it will eventually, we have an avenue that will get that individual to the right person at the county to be able to help them out. So
thank you, Justin. All right, we got 7 minutes and we have 3 questions. The next one is to Marguerite. Marguerite, you are hearing people right now who heard your story, and they're passionate. Baltimore. One thing about Baltimore, we're passionate, city and county alike. And I recognize your answer to this may be more specific to the blind community, to those with disabilities around vision. But what would you say to people? You heard Paul, like there's going to be groups that are going to struggle with the self-testing. What would you say to them? What are the first steps you would take towards advocating for your population?
First of all, I appreciate what everybody has contributed and what Baltimore City and Baltimore County are considering, realizing that there are people that would need some support. And I would also encourage you to come out into the community, maybe to community organizations, and just kind of take the pulse on what's happening in the community. How are people responding to this? How are they able to actually get it done? I know you all are talking to each other, and that's great, but taking the pulse on the community, I think, will be very valuable. Door to door is ambitious, I think, and so that's why I'm thinking that community organizations, where you get a group of people together, a plethora of community representatives in one place to kind of get a sense, and also to let the community organizations know what you're doing so that they can be in touch with their communities around all of this, and maybe even figure out a way to help support, the folks in their community that can get it done. And maybe even an ambassador kind of thing, where, the younger people or people who are more willing and capable and flexible about going in the basements and cellars, some sort of stipend or compensation for them. I don't know how that could happen, but as an incentive, and because of incomes nowadays, that's just something that I'm thinking might be a possibility. I don't know if there are some grants out there that would consider that. And I know that this is unfolding as we go, and we want everybody to weigh in on it, because the whole community needs to be represented, and their pipes need to be replaced if needed. And we need to know what's going on. So in order to be able to figure that out, I think it'll be, many ways that we'll have to take an approach, and then go back and talk to the community to see how it's working out, and get feedback to kind of figure out how to go forward. So
I love that ending, Marguerite, is,
Yeah.
hey, this moment in time, we're going to make sure it becomes a movement in time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I picked up on that on Paul, where, he was like, all right, we'll tackle this together. And then can we do more to promote public health and get more future Natalies out of high school to become scientists like Paul and Justin?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, Marguerite. So Dr. Exum, Justin, and Paul, a question to you three, probably one of the most important questions, and I'm hoping just for a very direct answer, because after this, there's one more that's going to go to Dr. Exum. We're all talking about water health. Paul, you laid out the foundation earlier about, like, look, that pipe would be just, it's a private one, but the water health is still healthy. So Justin, Paul, Dr. Exum, the city and county's water right now, healthy to drink. That's everyone's just making sure, like, we can drink it, right? You can unmute and say yes if that's the case, or no if that's not the case.
It has been and continues to be the case. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Paul. Justin, anything from the county side? Dramatic pause, but
sorry, getting unmuted. No, Paul said it well. Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I can obviously back that up, but I think mostly what people may be responding to is the the cryptosporidium challenge that came out of one of the Druid Lake that hadn't been covered. It is now covered. It is now testing negative continually for cryptosporidium. So that is very, very good news, and it's now covered. And so the challenges that originated have largely been taken care of because of that update in the infrastructure. So really good news from that front.
All right. Thank you. All right. It's 6:58. We got 2 minutes to tie into something massive. What I will tell, and then Dr. Exum, your question, I'm going to ask you the question now, then you're going to answer it after I make this update. There was a young Natalie in high school that now has made a career for herself. And if you guys don't know Dr. Exum, she is one of the greatest scientists that I've come to meet. With that in mind, with the HEAT Corps, our intentions are to go into the high schools, to grab the future Natalies and try to say, this is why public health is important, why water health is important, and what you can do to help neighbors like Marguerite and others, because you have the digital literacy, and we can create that youthful movement to help our city. And for more information about the HEAT Corps, please check us out at JH Connects and at JH HEAT Corps on all your social media platforms. Email us if you have more questions around this topic or any other health topic. Dr. Exum, why does it make sense to pull in the youth?
Well, one of the things that I'm really passionate about is developing something that I like to call a public health engineer. And it's not a discipline that anyone's probably ever heard of, but it actually is something that links together our challenges. What do the youth care about right now, right? Are they going to have a future because of our climate, right? Where is the equity in the world that we live in? They want to see a world where everyone has equal opportunity, and all these barriers that have been set before they're taken down. And so I would actually say drinking water and clean, healthy tap water is one of the most equalizing forces and public health forces in our world today. And so you actually can have a hand in that by entering into this field. That environmental health is an actual field that you can enter into. I didn't even know that until I was in graduate school. A number of the students that I teach don't even know that. And so how can we at the high school level get people to recognize, actually, you can go and work at DPW and have a great career and be applying all these concepts that you're learning in your biology class or in your chemistry class, and you can bring those together and actually have a really great career in this field. And so how can we get the youth excited, not just about, doing this for their neighbors, which, again, helping your neighbors means caring for your neighbors means caring about the pipes. But I'll pass it over to Paul, who has, I think, equally this passion as well.
Go ahead, Paul.
Remember the
30 seconds.
blind kids. We have
Oh.
a STEM program at the National Federation of the Blind. So please.
Yes, Marguerite,
remember
thank you for
those
that
kids.
plug. Thank you, my friend.
Yes.
And then Paul.
Yeah, I just want to tag on to what Natalie mentioned. I actually just had we do presentations for the new employees at DPW, and today was presentation day. I'll tell you the same thing I tell them. I'm biased just because I'm the bureau head at Water and Wastewater, but I truly believe that without the services that we provide, without the water, there is no life. Nothing lives without water. So we serve almost 2 million people, about a third of the state, and that gives me personal satisfaction. We may not get a pat on the back. That doesn't really matter. But the fact that we are able to provide the basic necessities of life is what gives us important. It gives our job importance. I will say that coming from the private side, having worked almost 30 years on the private side, and now coming to the public, this is by far the best job and the most rewarding in my career.
Paul, so a great way to end. And when you guys get a surge of high school interns applying this summer, I'm gonna take the credit. All right, good people. No, but listen, I really want to end with a massive thank you to Marguerite Woods, Dr. Natalie Exum, Justin Hall, Paul Cyan. I mean, you guys, thank you for coming together today. It's not our first, nor will it be our last. As we said, this moment in time is going to become a public health movement to get the community involved, as well as getting the next generation of public health scientists out there. We cannot thank you enough, and thank you to the Johns Hopkins University and Johns Hopkins Medicine for the efforts today, and of course to the HEAT Corps. More to come, more future town halls. Thank you all so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.